The man's face was covered in sand, but he didn't dare to lift his hand to wipe it off because a cliff was right behind him. If he fell, he would surely die. So, he concentrated all his strength in his fingers, gripping the sandy soil tightly and not daring to move. Unfortunately, the soil was too loose to support his weight. Soon, he began to slide uncontrollably. In a panic, he spread his legs wide and pressed his head tightly against the ground, managing to stop himself just in time. But then, his phone in his backpack started ringing. A chance to call for help was right there. The man slowly raised one hand and reached for his backpack, gently unzipping it. Just as he was about to touch the phone, he lost his balance and started sliding rapidly down the slope. He had to use all his limbs to brace himself against the edge of the cliff, preventing himself from falling. But his hands were in loose sand, and his feet were on hard rock. It was only a matter of time before he would fall. Fear and helplessness began to overwhelm him. Then, he seemed to remember something and started muttering to himself. He was calculating the intervals between the waves crashing against the rocks. After confirming it a few times, he seized the moment, turned sharply, and jumped into the sea. Although he didn't die from the fall, the shallow water caused his waist to hit the rocks, and he briefly lost consciousness. Fortunately, he quickly regained his senses, swam to the surface, and climbed onto the nearest reef. At that moment, the man finally relaxed. But as he was about to leave, he fell heavily onto the reef and passed out. He didn't know how long he was out, but the sound of the waves woke him up. He cautiously moved his body and realized that his pelvis was broken from the fall, and his legs were gradually losing sensation. It was then that he remembered the phone in his backpack. But the phone had been soaked in seawater for too long and was now useless. The man helplessly looked up at the sky and shouted for help, but there was no response. So, he took off his clothes to bandage his wounds as best as he could and began to look around for a way out. In the distance, he saw a small island. The man painfully dragged himself to the edge of the reef and flipped into the sea. He used one arm to swim forward with all his might, but his abdomen began to ache fiercely. By this time, the man had no strength left and passed out, letting his body slowly sink. Just as his feet touched the seabed, his fiancée suddenly appeared in his mind, calling his name over and over. The man was jolted awake and, with all his remaining strength, managed to surface. But as he was about to reach the shore, a huge wave crashed over him. Could he survive?